In 1988, three of the world's most respected laboratories announced they had solved the greatest mystery in Christianity. The Shroud of Turin, the linen cloth that millions believed had wrapped the body of Jesus, was a fake. Medieval. Forged somewhere between 1260 and 1390 AD, the case was closed. The relic was a fraud. For 34 years, the world accepted it. And then, in 2022, a team of Italian scientists took a single thread, 0.5 millimeter wide, and ran a test no one had ever run on the shroud before. What they found didn't just challenge the 1988 result, it buried it. The cloth is 2,000 years old, and that's only the beginning of what science cannot explain. Close your eyes. We're going inside the most studied object in human history. Forget what you've seen in photographs. The Shroud of Turin is a single piece of linen, 4.5 meters long, 1 meter wide, woven in a 3-to-1 herringbone pattern that was expensive even in the 1st century. The kind of cloth a wealthy man might buy to bury someone he loved. John 19:39 tells us Joseph of Arimathea was exactly that kind of man. Wealthy, devoted. And Nicodemus came with him, carrying roughly 75 Roman pounds of myrrh and aloes, a staggering quantity for a burial. They wrapped the body in clean linen. They laid it on the shelf. They rolled the stone. And on that linen, faintly reddish-brown, almost invisible in person, is the image of a man, 6 feet tall, beaten, scourged, crowned with thorns, a wound in his side, nail wounds in his wrists and feet. The image has no pigment, no brushstrokes, no ink. Under a microscope, it sits only on the topmost fibers of the cloth, a layer thinner than a single bacterium. No one knows how it got there. And that is the smallest mystery this cloth contains. December 4th, 1532. Chambéry, France. The shroud is kept in the Sainte-Chapelle, sealed inside a silver reliquary. In the middle of the night, a fire breaks out in the chapel. The flames reach the reliquary. The silver begins to melt. A molten drop of silver, liquid metal, burns straight through the folded cloth inside. When they finally pry open the reliquary hours later, the damage is catastrophic. The cloth is scorched in a symmetrical pattern, the same burn repeated 14 times following the folds. The Poor Clare nuns spend weeks sewing patches over the holes. Those patches are still visible today, but the image is untouched. The flames burned the edges, the folds, the corners. The face of the man on the cloth, the body, the wounds, the hands crossed over the pelvis, survived completely intact. A fire that melted silver could not destroy the image, and that fire becomes important later. Because 456 years after it happened, 3 laboratories will use it to explain why their carbon dating was so wrong. May 28, 1898. Turin, Italy. An amateur photographer named Secondo Pia is given permission to photograph the shroud for the first time in history. He sets up his camera. He takes the shot. He goes home to develop the glass plate in his darkroom, and what he sees almost makes him drop it. The photographic negative, the inverted image on the plate, isn't a negative at all. It's a perfect positive, a photorealistic face, hollow eyes, a beard, long hair, the face of a man in repose, which means the image on the shroud itself is a negative. Read that again. The image on the linen, the faint reddish-brown stain that millions of pilgrims had venerated for centuries, is a photographic negative. In 1898, before photography itself had existed for more than 60 years, before anyone in the Middle Ages had any concept of what a negative was, The idea that a 14th century forger could have painted a negative image, inverting every shadow, every highlight, every subtle gradation of light, with no reference for what he was doing and no way to see his own work until it was finished. It's impossible. Secondo Pia's hands were trembling when he finally set the plate down. He later wrote that he had been alone, locked in my dark room, with a sacred image emerging in front of my eyes. The camera saw something the human eye could not. And the image it saw was the first crack in the medieval forgery theory. April 21st, 1988. A single postage stamp-sized sample is cut from one corner of the shroud. The sample is divided into 3 pieces and sent to 3 of the world's most respected carbon dating laboratories: Oxford, Zurich, the University of Arizona. 7 months later, they announced the result together: 1260 to 1390 AD medieval, a forgery, case closed. The world's newspapers ran the headline the next morning: "The Shroud is a fake." The Vatican did not contest it. Churches that had displayed replicas quietly took them down. The Shroud, for most of the world, became a curiosity, an icon, a powerful symbol, but no longer evidence. For 34 years, that was the consensus. But 3 things haunted the 1988 result. First, the corner that was sampled. It was the exact corner the medieval nuns had touched the most when displaying the cloth. The exact corner closest to the 1532 fire damage. And the exact corner where later analysis would find cotton fibers woven invisibly into the linen. A medieval repair patch that didn't belong to the original cloth at all. Second, the fire itself. Carbon dating measures the ratio of carbon-14 in organic material. A fire that burned silver would have deposited enormous quantities of modern carbon into the cloth as smoke and soot. Every carbon dating expert knew this could skew results. No one knew by how much. Third, a chemist named Raymond Rogers. He had been part of the original scientific team that examined the shroud in 1978. He didn't believe in the authenticity of the cloth. He wanted to prove the 1988 dating was correct. So in 2005, he tested fibers from the sampled corner against fibers from the main body of the shroud. They weren't the same cloth. The sampled corner contained vanillin, a chemical that disappears from linen over centuries. The main cloth contained none. Rogers concluded the sampled area was a medieval repair, not original shroud material. He published his findings in Thermochimica Acta, a peer-reviewed scientific journal, just before he died. The 1988 dating had tested a patch, not the shroud. In 2022, a researcher named Liberato de Caro at Italy's Institute of Crystallography tried something new. Carbon dating measures decayed carbon atoms. It's easily contaminated by smoke, by fire, by bacteria, by centuries of human contact. But cellulose, the molecular backbone of linen itself, decays differently. It doesn't absorb contamination the same way. It ages from the inside out at a predictable rate as its molecular structure breaks down over time. De Caro's team used a technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering, WAXS, to measure that molecular decay directly. They took a single thread from the shroud, 0.5 millimeter wide, 1 millimeter long, almost invisible to the naked eye. They ran the test. Then they compared the result against linen samples of known age, medieval cloth from the 14th century, Byzantine cloth from the 9th, and, critically, a fragment of linen from Masada, the Jewish fortress that fell to Rome in 73 AD. The shroud's molecular signature matched Masada, 1st century, 55 to 74 AD. Exactly the window in which Jesus was crucified, buried, and, according to the Gospels, rose again. The 2022 result was published in the peer-reviewed journal Heritage. It didn't disprove the 1988 dating as a scientific failure. It disproved it as a measurement of the wrong thing. The cloth is 2,000 years old. The age of the cloth is no longer the mystery. These are the blood. The stains on the shroud are real human blood. Type AB, containing high levels of bilirubin, the chemical the human body produces under extreme trauma and torture. Forensic pathologists who have studied the bloodstains say they are consistent with someone scourged with a Roman flagrum, crowned with thorns, nailed through the wrists, and pierced in the right side with a spear, exactly as described in the Gospels. The pollen. In the 1970s, Swiss criminologist Max Frei found pollen grains embedded in the cloth from plants that grow only in Jerusalem and the surrounding region, many of them blooming in spring, the season of Passover. The coins. High-resolution imaging of the shroud reveals small circular marks over the eyes of the man. Some researchers have identified them as matching Pontius Pilate lepton coins, minted between 29 and 32 AD, a 1st century Jewish burial practice of placing coins over the eyes of the deceased. The 3D information. When NASA imaging scientists analyzed the shroud in 1976, they discovered something no other photograph contains. The brightness of the image on the cloth corresponds exactly to the distance between the body and the linen. It's not a picture. It's a topographic map of a human body. No painting, no photograph, no medieval forgery could contain that information. Only a direct imprint from an actual body could. And the image itself. No pigment, no ink, no brush strokes. A faint yellowing of the topmost fibers of the cloth, measured in billionths of a meter. Scientists at Italy's National Agency for New Technologies attempted to recreate the image in 2011 using excimer lasers, the most advanced light-based technology available. They produced something similar. They could not produce it identical. Their conclusion, published in their official report: the image on the Shroud of Turin was produced by a sudden burst of radiation from a body. That is the language of a scientific agency. Not a church, not a theologian. A body. A burst of light. No known mechanism. Step back now. The fire of 1532 burned through silver and could not destroy the image. The camera of 1898 revealed a photographic negative no medieval mind could have designed. The carbon dating of 1988 tested a repair patch and got it wrong. The WAXS analysis of 2022 proved the cloth is 1st century. And inside the fibers, the blood of a scourged man, the pollen of Jerusalem in spring, the coins of Pontius Pilate, the topographic map of a body, and an image that modern lasers cannot replicate. Every century, someone has tried to prove the shroud is a fake. Every century, the cloth has survived. And here is the quiet truth. The shroud is not sacred because of what is on it. It is sacred because of what is missing. The Gospel of John tells us that when Peter entered the empty tomb on Easter morning, he saw the burial linens lying there, and the cloth that had covered the face, folded separately, empty, flat, collapsed, as if the body inside them had simply passed through. The Shroud of Turin has survived fire, theft, war, forgery accusations, and the most aggressive scientific scrutiny in human history. And every test, every single one, has brought it closer to the 1st century, closer to Jerusalem, closer to a tortured body laid on clean linen on a Friday evening 2,000 years ago. The angel said, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here." The cloth was empty by Sunday morning, and 2,000 years of science still cannot explain how. If this opened your eyes to something you didn't know, subscribe. Share this with someone who thinks the shroud was settled in 1988. And tell me in the comments, what hit you hardest? The photographic negative? The molten silver that couldn't burn the image? The thread from Masada? I read every one. See you in the next.